What's up, guys? Welcome to today's video. Kyle and I are driving over to his parents' house right now, where my 240 is on the lift still. If you guys saw the last video, then you guys saw that basically we went to Pumpkin Bash. I exploded the crap out of that clutch, and we had to figure something out. So if you haven't watched the last video, check it out up here, and you guys can see what happened. It took like 2 weeks to figure something out about the clutch, because the first thing I did is I hit up Injuku, because I bought the clutch through them, and basically ended up having to hit up Spec directly, and it was kind of a mess, man. I'm not gonna lie, but whatever. I ended up getting another Spec clutch. I'll kind of tell you guys the details of what Spec offered and what I ended up doing. Right now though, I don't know if we're gonna install the clutch today. We're really going over there because the input shaft bearing on the transmission is bad, and I had to buy new bearings for that. So that's kind of the project for today before we slap the new clutch on. Let's get over there and we'll take a look at the trans and see what we got to do to split that thing and replace this input bearing, or the input shaft bearing. All right, guys, so we had already pulled the trans off, as you guys saw, and basically what we need to do now is there's a bearing inside the trans that stops the input shaft from having side to side play. And if you look at mine, that's a decent amount of play. You don't want that much movement in the input shaft, because that means that when this is inside the crank and inside the pilot bushing, it's not spinning straight, and it can cause the pilot bushing to get eaten and wear out or whatever. So that's kind of what Injuku and Spec say happened, is that my input shaft was bad, the bearing was bad, and it caused all of this. Personally, I think that the clutch, the clutch disc failed, and the rivets sheared off, and the pads, sheared off, and that's what caused the unbalance in the spin, and that's what caused the bearing to go out, and that's what caused the pilot bushing to get eaten up, and everything. So I don't know. So here's what happened with Spec. Basically, because neither of us could really prove that it was the fault of my trans or it was the fault of their clutch, they basically said that if I ship my clutch back to them, that they would, if the disc was good and it was balanced, that they would re-pad it for me for free. I had to pay shipping both ways. I did have to buy a new pressure plate. They sold it to me for cost, which was cool. But all that said and done, new throwout bearing, that plus resurfacing the flywheel again, and having to buy the bearing kit to replace the bearing in this trans, I spent a lot of money. I could have bought a whole nother brand new clutch for the almost the amount of money that I spent to do all this. So it's kind of frustrating. It really took a toll on me as far as like money and emotionally, because I was really upset about not being able to drift all weekend anyway, and then all this happened. Kyle got the flywheel resurfaced for me again. He always just happens to be off work when I need a flywheel resurfaced, so he goes and drops it off. Here's new bearings. I bought a kit that has, oh, what is this?
I don't know.
It sent me some instructions.
That's probably empty.
Oh, nice. That looks nice. So it came with all the bearings for the trans. It did not come with synchros, because I didn't want to rebuild like everything. I don't think we're going to use all these. I think we're just going to do the main input shaft bearing, and I think there's 2 bearings for that, so we'll look. Oh, no way. Dude. I called every dealership and like all the auto parts stores yesterday to try to get one of these by today, and no one could get one in for me. I didn't even know that this kit came with one. Oh my gosh. I'm stoked. All right, sick. This, guys, is for this front cover. So when you take this front cover off, it needs a new gasket. We've never done an SR trans like this, so it shouldn't be too hard though. We're gonna basically start by splitting it down the middle, taking the front cover off, and then seeing where it gets us. All right, we got the bolts out for the front cover. We forgot there's fluid in here.
Yahtzee. Well, if you would have done it nicely, we could have saved this.
We got a new one. How do we want to save it?
Yeah, so there's the seal.
All right, yeah, so we have that seal. This also came out. Looks like a shim. Snap ring pliers, if you guys haven't used them, it's pretty easy. You just put those two little things into the little holes, like that. Squeeze them. Squeeze, Kyle. Oh, come on, guy.
Sorry, I fell out.
Come on. There you go. Bam. So there's the C-clip. Okay, let's see if we can slide the front bearing. Oh yeah, these shims, make sure you keep them in order. Got the trans split apart, as you can see. There's the front bell housing, and here's pretty much the transmission. Alright guys, so I think we figured out that basically this is the front bearing. The rear bearing sits in here, and to get this whole input shaft off, we got to take out this gear and this bearing.
Should really use a puller.
Let's go rent one because we're gonna need RTV anyway. Let's take your race car to O'Reilly's Day. How do you like the new wheel, Kyle?
Dude.
Kyle got a new Grip Royal Chris Forsberg edition wheel. It's pretty sick.
Love it.
It feels really good. It's made of like a synthetic suede. Feels pretty nice. I might have to cop. See if we can demonstrate here. Oh, I don't know if this is gonna. I don't know if these are gonna work. I don't know if this is gonna work, guys, because the thickness of that isn't really fitting in here. It's close. Very close. We're trying to heat up the bearing right now to see if it'll kind of expand a little bit and maybe separate from the shaft a little bit. Oh God. All right, so now that this bearing is out, we got another, looks like another C-clip to take out. So once that comes out, we should be able to slide this. Oh, well, we got to take this out. Then we can slide this out. There's that. All right, guys, so got some kind of crappy news, but basically, you know, we got this top bearing off, but we were struggling to get this gear out, and I called some friends, and I realized that this gear, to get it off, you got to basically take this shaft off, and he was saying, it was our buddy Casey, and he was saying, I got to take, basically, you got to take the whole thing apart to get, you know, this bearing we can take off and replace. This is the front bearing, but to get this one that's in here, we have to actually pull the shaft, and to pull the shaft, you have to pull this gear, and to pull this gear, you got to pull this shaft, and to pull this shaft, you know, so basically it'd be like disassembling all of this. It's just a lot. It's a lot more than I was anticipating, you know. So I think we're gonna probably just kind of pause here. I don't know, at the least we could pull this one and put a new one on, but it just seems like, I don't know what to do. I don't want to half-ass it and then blow that, you know, another clutch. I can't afford to blow another clutch, so I don't know. Anyway, but we're gonna pause right here, guys, and probably just call it a day for right now. I don't know what I'm gonna do yet, so I don't know if this is gonna be the end of the video or not, so we'll see, depending on what we decide to do. But so anyway, we'll see what to do. I will see you guys later when I figure out what the next step is. Peace.